Hello there, thanks for tuning in to this unboxing video. Today we're going to be unboxing the new MacBook Pro 2019. This is an 8-core i9 processor with 512 gigabytes of SSD storage. And basically all we're going to do is talk a little bit about it, what the benefits are, what the cons are. And then after we unbox it, there will be a video in the future in terms of a product review. So this model itself will cost you roughly $27.99. And if you use the education pricing, you get $200 off, so it'll become $25.99. The base model of the 15-inch MacBook Pro is $23.99. So if you're jumping from the one spec to the next, you're going to be costing yourself roughly almost $400. But if you go through the education pricing, you get it for $200 off, and essentially you're only going to be paying at that point $200 for 512 gigabytes of storage instead of 256. You're going to get an i9 instead of an i7. You're going to get 8 cores instead of 6 cores. And then you're going to get all the little nicks and tweaks that they have internally. Now, I started with a MacBook Air 2015, which is right here. And I got that in 2015. I bought it used. And I'm a heavy programmer, and I do a lot of iOS development, a lot of Python development. And in order for me to do iOS development, I need an Apple computer. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it doesn't really neglect the fact that I still need one. So I've been using a MacBook Air for the past almost 4 years, and it's really inhibited my development process. So I've been wanting to get a MacBook Pro for many years at this point, but every time they release a new MacBook Pro, there's always some issue. It's the butterfly keyboards, the thermal throttling, the butterfly keyboards again, security flaws, and so forth. So basically, I've always held off on purchasing a MacBook Pro, but I decided that once I saw the new MacBook got released the other day, I decided to purchase it. And I had just purchased a MacBook Pro i7 6-core to test it out to see how it was, and it experienced a lot of thermal issues that I had been seeing reviews on. So they didn't really seem to fix any of those issues. And so I'm hoping that this MacBook Pro will have a lot of the thermal problems going away, and Apple will be able to deploy some software to reduce it. But I'm really confident that this MacBook Pro will really take what I've been doing on my MacBook Air for programming development, where I've wasted so much time on just compiling code, on just waiting for things to run, that this MacBook Pro will actually be able to be the savior to what I need to do to accomplish it. So in the bio below, I'll actually include a link to my Instagram pages for my personal and my app development. And give us a follow there if you like our content. If you want to stay tuned for more, make sure you subscribe and press that like button and turn on post notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything. So without further ado, let's get straight into the unboxing part of this video. I'm going to bring the camera up close so you can see it once I cut the wrapping off. And then from there, we'll open it up, see what it's like, and then take it from there. So yeah, so we got the plastic wrap over here. And so let's just cut it open. You know, they really make it so difficult just to get the plastic off. So once the plastic's off, I'll just bring the camera up close so that we can look at it up close and personal, see what's going on, what's under the hood, and go from there. So the plastic is off. So let's bring the camera up close and see what we think. So I figured before we open the box itself, we might as well just look at the specs so that we have a little bit of reference. So this is the 15.4-inch MacBook Pro, not the 13-inch. This has 8 cores, it's 2.3 gigahertz with an i9 processor with 16 megabytes of shared L3 cache. It's going to be the 16 gigs of RAM with DDR4 memory, and it's the Radeon Pro 560X with 4 gigabytes of GDDR5 memory. So the thing that I don't like about the MacBook Pros is the FaceTime. Let's see if it can zoom in well. The FaceTime HD camera. I'm more than certain it's 720 pixels and not 1080, which is kind of preposterous considering that the iPhones have 4K on the back and also have a really good camera in the front. So I'm kind of confused. My favorite feature though in terms of usability is definitely the touch bar and the touch ID. I know people think the touch bar itself is not very useful in some regards, but when you're programming, it's actually kind of nice because you can just run your program straight from the touch bar, and the touch ID is beautiful. Lots of Windows had it before Apple, but there's just something about the Apple feel that kind of gives it a unique feature. So the other cool thing is the stereo speakers for sure. I know from my MacBook Air, when I first used my MacBook Air stereo, it was amazing for me to listen to how clear it was just coming out of a laptop. And I can only imagine what the new MacBook Pro in the 15-inch, considering the size of speakers, will sound like. So without further ado, let us open the box. Now for the unboxing of the video itself. So we're about to open up the MacBook Pro 15-inch i9 8 cores. And honestly, I'm really excited just because it has 8 cores and it's an i9. Interestingly enough, on the previous model, to upgrade to the i9 6 cores was an extra $200. Now that $200 brings you up from a boost of 4.8 gigahertz to 5 on the max and only 100 extra megahertz on the baseline. Definitely not worth upgrading the $200 now to get the total, I guess, 300 megahertz of performance, as there will only be minimal test cases where that 300 will actually be beneficial to you. So it's awesome that this is now in the base price of the $25.99 education pricing, or $27.99. So we got the MacBook Pro, and it's the same design as the past, I want to say 3 years, because I believe 2016 was when they did the redesign. But you know, it's really, there is something magical about it. There's something crazy that this size here hasn't changed in 3 years, but they went from this containing 4 cores to last year's model containing 6 cores to now having 8 cores. And to me, that's ingenuity, that's engineering. The size hasn't changed at all. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm more than certain the size hasn't changed. I used to use a 13-inch for my place of work, and I just loved it overall. So we got the Space Gray edition here, and so we'll just put it aside. Let's just finish getting all the nits and grits out. So it gives you your USB-C charger and the port right here, the box, if it wants to come out. So right here, just your average typical USB-C, and it goes into this giant power box, plug in, goes into one of the 4 ports. So everyone seems to love stickers. I wish the stickers came in a different color. What I do not like about the MacBook Pro, just in terms of aesthetically, the MacBook Air recently received a new redesign color for it. And so here are the stickers. And so I was kind of disappointed to see that the MacBook Pro, once again, did not get another color like gold or rose gold. And I thought that would have been really unique, because I would have really loved to see it and get that one. But, you know, I'm not complaining on this. So it's got your 2 USB-C ports here, 2 Thunderbolt-C here as well, your headphone jack over here, and yeah, that's about it for the body. So in terms of up close and personal, you know, well, let's just bring the camera over here. So as you can see, the MacBook Pro, when you open it up, is the same as the model from 2016. It's got bigger trackpad, it's got a nice butterfly keyboard with a touch bar. This is the 4th gen keyboard of butterflies. It's supposed to reduce many of the problems that have been in the last 3 versions. It's kind of funny that it's taken 4 versions to fix all the issues with it, and this may not necessarily fix them all, but you never know what could happen. And maybe this is the actual resolution to what the issue was itself. Many people don't really like the butterfly keyboard. Coming from a MacBook Pro to a MacBook Air, I would say I kind of I kind of like the butterfly keyboard, and I will say based on the last model, which was the 3rd gen that I tested out and returned to get this Mac, it kind of actually feels much nicer. It feels more stiff and more secure. So I'm really pleasantly surprised with that. So that is basically what the inside of when you open it looks like. And yeah, let's carry on. As we finish up this unboxing video, the next video will contain reviews, but I just want to illustrate something in terms of price. So you can get this model right here for $27.99. You can get the other 15-inch for $23.99, and that's a $400 difference. Now, you could upgrade the 13-inch MacBook Pro to max out the specs to try and gain what the 15-inch has, but at that point, you're kind of going to be paying almost as much as the MacBook Pro 15-inch as you would if you were to max out the 13-inch to get all the same specs in here. So honestly, the best buy at the moment in terms of what I'm looking at is this model right here, which is the $27.99 model with 512 gigabytes of storage, 16 gigs of RAM, i9, 8 cores for $27.99. And if you just Google Apple education pricing, you can get the reduced price for it to help with your budget. Definitely worth getting. Remember, don't upgrade from the one i9 to the second i9, which only gives you a total of 300 megahertz. But, you know, people may think that this price is overpriced, that this product is way too much for what you're offering. You can't game on it well, but you could upgrade to the Vega 20 Pro chip and help with your gaming, or you can get an external GPU. But, you know, I want to say that the one thing that Apple has over everybody, and I'll go in depth in the next video, is that the software and the hardware are both designed and made by Apple. So in terms of optimization, in terms of how long your MacBook Pro or Mac in general will last relative to an Asus computer that's running Windows over and over again, every update, your Asus might not last more than a couple years, but your MacBook Pro will, people are still, you know, using a 2013 MacBook Pro and they're running perfectly smooth and doing development work on it. So there's really no big issue in terms of the longevity of how long your Mac will last. And I think that's really important to factor in. I don't think I'll ever be trading this Mac in for a different Mac. There will be the ARM iPad Mac combination where basically you'll finally have a touchscreen and be running something similar to Mac OS on an iPad. I may end up getting that when that gets released in the future. We don't really know when that's coming out, but in terms of any other upgrade, there is really no need. I can just plug this into an external display and have the power of basically an iMac, not an iMac Pro necessarily, but this will take on an iMac and be able to do it on a desktop setup like. So definitely happy about this purchase, definitely happy to try it out, and I'll get back to you with the reviews. And one last thing, in terms of pricing, Microsoft products, in terms of their Surfaces, and Microsoft is the creator of Windows, their Surface Pros actually are relatively just as expensive as the Apple MacBook Pros, and I figure I just throw that out because they have similar RAM storage, similar SSD storage, similar cores. I don't believe they have a i9 Core 8 yet, but obviously that's probably coming out. But I think the only difference really is just going to be the graphics chip and a couple other features where you can probably game better on a Surface than you can here. But in general, I would say I would take a Mac OS any day over Windows, and that's just me. So, but you know, we'll find out what happens when we do the review. And yeah, that's really it. Thank you so much for listening and tuning into this video. If you like the video, subscribe, leave a comment. I'll be responding to all comments within the first 48 hours. So tell me what you think, what your expectation, if you've purchased one, if you're not purchasing one, why you're not purchasing one. Let's make it a great group discussion and have a lot of positive vibes. Awesome. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Oh my gosh.